Welcome to Sustainable Leadership Live. I'm Lisa Danforth, your host, and today we have the lovely Lori Blatt joining us. Lori, thank you so much for agreeing to share your brilliance with us.
Oh, well, thanks, Lisa. I am excited to be here and talk about something I absolutely love.
Yeah, and it is fascinating stuff. But before we jump in, I just want to share a little bit about Lori and why we have her here sharing her brilliance. Lori is a brand strategist and a creative soul living in an analytical mind. The result is a balance of marketing principles, provocative questions, engaging design, and well-crafted words. Lori has the ability to see the big picture and the design prowess to orchestrate the details. And her creative solutions help clients and their teams to discover what makes them fascinating, to leverage what makes them different, and to attract their ideal audience. And today we are talking about how to cultivate your brand because it will grow with you or without you. So let's jump in.
Yes.
I would love to start with, we were talking in the green room about the myths of personal branding. So I think we should just start there and start tossing that around.
Yeah. So I we I think we all know brands in terms of uh, the big companies that we that we know and buy from, and just brand is all about really the essence of what they stand for and knowing your audience and just that experience that you create. Unfortunately, in some, I think it's all too often people think, well, branding is a website, a logo, and
Mhm.
print material, but those are the tangibles, and its brand is so much bigger than that. And as we've seen in the news of late, that when you aren't paying attention to what your brand has been built on,
Mhm.
it can really cost you. So it's not just the corporations though that have brands. We each, as an individual, especially when you're in business, have a brand.
Mhm.
It's what people remember about you. It's how other people talk about you, how they refer you. Whatever that context is, uh, that is your brand. And the myth that I have to chuckle every time I see this online, you have these content creators, not unlike myself, but these content creators go, personal branding is a myth, it's dead, it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, this is funny, as they routinely post on a rhythm to talk to their audience about their niche, which is all about your brand. So i
Okay.
think i think in a lot of ways they just do it to be sort of oh, what's the word,
Provocative.
yeah, provocative, not confrontational, but just to poke the bear,
Mhm.
right? And but it's really important. And I think a lot of people, especially when they're getting started, and I do a lot of work with coaches and consultants, they they kind of fall into two groups. One, they hook their wagon to a franchise.
Mhm.
It could be EOS, it could be scaling up, it could be um, Vistage or Gravitas. So there's a framework there. It gives them material. They
Mhm.
don't feel like they're having to forge their own identity right out the gate. And then the other bucket are the people that do take their life experience and they've kind of woven this practice and principles and tools out of that experience, and it's under their own umbrella, and they've got to share that story. So franchise is great, but you can get lost in it,
True.
and that franchise isn't there. What is? And it is going to be whatever brand you built outside of or alongside of that franchise. And when you're the startup, it's all about you. You've got
Mhm.
to convey why people should invest their money and their time with you. And you need to do that through your brand, your stories, how you show up, how you follow up. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just a whole journey. It's a customer journey that I think gets overlooked quite often.
I love what you're saying. I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper because you said in the beginning, brand, a couple of things, but I think, we think that it's the logo, we think that it's the website. Can you give some examples of that people are neglecting that are a part of their brand? I know you just mentioned a few, and really distinguishing them from, it's not just the logo, it's not just the website, so they can be aware.
Where I'll take this is referrals. If we all love referrals, they are warm introductions, and we have someone advocating for us. The problem is if your brand is not concrete, if it is not established, if you don't, your LinkedIn profile is out of whack, your materials are dated.
Mm-hmm.
One of my pet peeves are people's images online that don't match up to what they look like today.
10 years old, right?
Because that's a shocker.
Yeah.
You're seeing this visual person online, and then you get in a Zoom room or you get to meet them in person. You're like, how old's that picture? So we all age, we need to embrace it. But I would say, circling back to referrals, is that your referrals coming from your circle of influence, your COIs, past clients, current clients, if they don't have a clear sense of who you are, who you work for, who you want to work with, what you do, and how to talk about it, they could, they won't refer you. Two, they'll refer to you the wrong people. And then you're left trying to sort through the chafe to find what you really want. And one of the, like, again, with a website, if it's on point, you are actually if it's set up correctly, you're actually qualifying and disqualifying people who come to your site. You want that, because if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. So it's really important. It's a great tool, but we're so hesitant because we don't want to rule anything out. And it is important to figure out what your brand stands for so that you are really focusing your time and your energy on the right opportunities.
And that helps make us sustainable, right? As businesses, as individuals, all of that. And that is so key when we're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall. So let's dig into the brand essence and how to start developing that and creating the fascination.
Yeah. So I've kind of come, I kind of think of about brand essence because the program, my intensive that I do with clients, it's a 12-week intensive that I run them through. It's called the Meraki brand intensive. And Meraki is actually a Greek word, and it means the essence of oneself. And this is really important because if we're not building a brand that's based on us, on who we are, on our strengths, how we show up in our best self, if it's not easy, it's not sustainable. And that's, I think, where a lot of people struggle with their marketing is they haven't nailed down what makes them fascinating, what puts them in their wellspring, and what tactics and plan can they have that will allow them to have a sustainable marketing effort over time. So that's why I think the Fascinate assessment that I offer my clients and is part of all of my work is so super helpful. It's foundational because it gives them some real insight on who they are and why certain things have felt like a heavy lift and why other things come really easy and naturally to them.
Yes, I will just say that Lori did a Fascinate. She explained my profile to me, and it was absolutely phenomenal. The intake was so interesting, and to learn about if can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm not going to be able to explain it very well, but what you offer just clarifies so much for people.
So let's start with the assessment. So the assessment, people are probably very familiar with Myers-Briggs and
Mhm.
DISC and Strength Finders. I've done them all. um, but those tests are based on psychology, and it's how we perceive the world, how
Mhm.
we interact with it. What's different about How to Fascinate is it is based on brand science, and it is based on how the world perceives you. I get this question all the time. Well, how can I take an assessment that's going to tell me how others perceive me? Well, the questions are designed to capture what you hear in conversations with other people. And it's how do they describe you? What kind of problems do they bring to you? What kind of things are you drawn towards doing versus shying away from? It's not, doesn't feel right. So it's 28 questions, takes less than 5 minutes to
Easy
take,
peasy.
and you get a report right away. And the report comes out as an archetype. And Lisa, this is bad of me. I didn't check before we jumped on. I believe are you a secret weapon?
Yes,
Okay. Um, so it
I
takes,
love that. I was like,
oh,
yes.
right? Yes. Um, so it takes, so it takes our um, top two advantages. There are 7 in total. We have all 7, but we have them at different levels. And our top 2 combined to create our archetype. And it's from there that we can really start to learn about how to leverage that that place of showing up in our best selves, how we can use that in our messaging. We use it in our work. We use it online, LinkedIn, um, when we create presentations, and just how we can really pull that in to our brand, and it becomes a validation of,
So
is my
true.
brand on track?
Mhm.
Is this like, this is how the world perceives me? How am I aligning with that, or am I resisting it? So the story of my assessment, I took mine in 2017 and came back the trendsetter, which is innovation and prestige. Innovation is the language of creativity. Prestige is the language of excellence. And while I was like great on the 2 advantages themselves, like, okay, I can see myself. I got hung up on my archetype name, the trendsetter. I'm like, me? Like, I'm not Kim Kardashian. Like, who am I to say I'm a trendsetter? And so, but the power of the report kept bringing me back. I
Mhm.
kept reading it. I kept digging further. Then I got one of Sally's book. The How to
I have that.
Fascinate was created by Sally Hogshead, renowned advertising genius, and she began to see these patterns, these trends, these advantages in the big brands, and she boiled it down into actually this test that would allow us to understand as people what our brand advantages are. Forgive me, Lisa. I have to plug in. I knew it would happen. We're good
You're
now.
out in nature, though. It's so lovely to
I did bring my backup cord. So it's through this assessment and finding out, really how I was showing up as a trendsetter,
Mhm.
that I started to embrace it more. One of the things about a trendsetter is they are risk takers. And while I have no desire to jump out of a plane or bungee jump, I have taken risks. I've started my own business. Um, I have planned monumental moves with no one else in my family on board. um, I've had to pivot through, through a significant health challenge. So when I started really kind of stepping back and looking at the risks that I have taken, I started to really realize I this is me,
Mhm.
and I am not one to follow the crowd. I am usually the one to say, well, if they're going that way, I'm going to go this way. It's less crowded,
It's more
I
fun.
yeah, I'll pave my own path. So it was really instrumental for me as I started to embrace it in my own business, and that really kind of happened during COVID, and that's when the Meraki brand intensive was creative. I kind of had the time and the focus to be able to kind of stop and look at this. And I did a bunch of betas with people and honed it over time. And now this 12-week program I have, it really, we do a social audit. We dive in into
Wow.
messaging. Yeah, it's funny, there's a intake form. People put in all their known social, addresses and profiles, and then we go looking. We do our recon and we put together a visual, and it's shocking to people what we find. And when it's there in front of you in black and white, you're just like, oh my gosh, I forgot
So
about that page. Oh my gosh, that was like from 5 years ago. But the problem is that's your brand footprint out there. And anybody searching for you, trying to decide if they're going to work with you, they're going to find it, because it's the B2B sort of statistic is, and I've seen it range from everywhere from like 63% up to 80% of the buying decision happens before they ever call you.
I
And
have seen that. Yeah, brand, so important.
yeah, so it's like once online, always online. So you really need to be aware of what you've cultivated over time and really nurture it, because as you prefaced here in the beginning, is like your brand is going to grow with or without you. So you either cultivate the garden you want, or you are just going to end up with a patch of weeds that
So true.
is detrimental to your business.
And the fascinate piece definitely helps you hone it in. What have your clients experienced like when they take the time to really dig in and lean into their archetype with all of the different personal branding? What are some of the experiences? Because I think we can hear like, oh yeah, it's important. I think we can really anchor it when we see and hear what has the transformation been for other people.
Well, it's really twofold. Because the way I work with my clients, I resist getting into in the role of brand coach. I resist getting into the weeds and into execution mode. My clients they're doing the work either through them by themselves, through their VA, or perhaps one of mine. But it's twofold, because not only does it help them realize how maybe I have been using the right wording, but not nearly enough, or I've been using the wrong language and it's counter to actually the perception that people have of me. Um, so, an example is a client of mine. He's become a huge advocate. I will give him a shout out here. Scott Kokenauer. He's the fourth quarter coach, and he really helps those in their fourth quarter of life, the 50s and up,
Mhm.
CEOs, really make the most of their last quarter as they transition out of their business and want to move from success into significance with everything that they've learned. Scott, when I met him, he has a fascinating story. Sorry for the pun, but it's true. He has a fascinating story, and he was really he was searching for a coach that he wished he had had when he came out of his business under less than ideal circumstances. And in taking the assessment, It helped him see where his value was rooted. It validated it. It helped him understand some of the decisions he had made to that point. Also helped him understand some of the things that were distracting him.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and it also helped me as his brand coach and his brand guide to recognize what was potentially at work inside Scott's head. Like what was going on? Why was he making these decisions? And so he went through the intensive, and we have stayed in touch. That was 2 years ago almost, and we stayed in touch. And he recently just came back and engaged with me again, with just one-on-one coaching. He said, "Lori, I feel like my brand is scattered. I need help." So we went back in because it had evolved. Your brand is always evolving.
So true. Yes.
It's never static. And so we plotted out. We didn't do a social audit again, but we did a bit of a diagram and just just in Canva. Shout out to Canva. I love Canva. But we like documented everything that was going on, and he was scattered. He had way too many alliances and partnerships started, and it was a way for him just like to lean back on that Fascinate report to say, okay, he's actually the anchor, and he needed to go back to his core and figure out this is what I want to build right now, and I need to keep these other distractions on the parking lot because they were taking away from what he needed to focus on. So, the assessment is great because it not only tells us where we're in our wellspring. Me, it's creating ideas. You as well as a secret weapon, Lisa, your mystique and innovation. So those, that's we love the joy of creating and connecting unrelated dots.
Hmm.
It's great for someone else.
Definitely helps guide what we say, what we do, or just putting ourselves out there and second guessing things. Not second guessing, but double checking, I should say.
Yeah,
Making sure
absolutely.
that it's on brand.
I work with a marketing director who, believe it or not, their innovation advantage is their dormant advantage. That means it's the advantage that they scored the lowest in. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's if they have to be there too long, if anybody, like my dormant is power. If I have to be in that for too long, it just feels
Not
suffocating. It feels
sustainable.
heavy. It's overwhelming. I need to like move on. It's counter to just being, that free flowing, risk taker. So for her, with innovation in dormant, what I recognized is the best way for our relationship to grow and to work well together is that I bring her ideas, and because she's high in prestige, that's my second, but she leads with prestige. She can take those ideas then and run with them.
Hmm.
But if she's given a blank canvas with innovation low, it's overwhelming. Doesn't know where to start. And it's not a flaw. It's not her wellspring to just come up with ideas out of thin air. But given ideas, she can be very selective and purposeful about what she proceeds with.
I'm really hearing that it helps you gain clarity on who you are, your branding in it, but it also gives you compassion for why you're struggling. So you can either look at where do I set things down? Where do I delegate? Where am I leaning into? And again, like we were saying at the very beginning, building that sustainability within your branding. So you're putting yourself out there and it's not just exhausting. This has been fantastic. I love, just, it's been fascinating.
I know you can't help it, right?
I know, you definitely can't help it, but there's so many different facets that come in there. So it has been such a treat to have you on. I would love to ask you, what one thing would you like people to walk away with, like to really start implementing that you feel would be the biggest takeaway today that we talked about?
Oh, that your brand is always evolving, but it is totally within your control. And I think it's important that we recognize that it does exist and not ignore it, because if we don't craft it, someone else will.
Oh, it's so true. And then it just starts evolving, and yeah, love it.
Devolving. That
Devolving. Yes, exactly. So awesome. Where can people reach out to you, connect with you?
Okay, so, well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Lori Blatt. I'm not too hard to find. And also, I have an offer that I'll put in the comments when this is finished and online. That there's an offer, a podcast offer I have to take the assessment, and I will also do a discovery deck like I did with you, Lisa. That really just helps to unpack the report that you get at a deeper level. So it's a small investment, but the returns on it are phenomenal.
Huge.
And I'm also getting ready to really push out a mighty network group called the Meraki Creative Circle. It's going to be a safe, creative space for people who want to work on their brand, want to work on their content, to have some structure. And I finally understand why I need to do it, why I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and really, I need it for myself. So I'm going to be showing up. I hope others will join me in there. It'll be great to, share ideas, get feedback, have the rhythm of creating content and honing in on our brand, and not feel like we have to do it alone.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear more about that. Definitely. All right. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Lori. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I love joining you today and being able to share something that's so near and dear to my heart.
And just really helps people get out there and be successful. So, and next week, June 14th, I have Jonathan Goff who's going to be joining me. So please join us on June 14th, 11 a.m. East Coast, 8 a.m. Pacific. And we will see you later. Thanks so much, Lori. Take care.
You're welcome. Thank you.